Okay, so welcome back again, class, for the second module of post-harvest handling and technology. So now we'll be discussing post-harvest losses and relative perishability of a fresh produce. So before we'll start, may want first to remind what to do during online classes, since I've been receiving some queries and questions what to do this new normal class, no? So first, I will ask first, how is your online classes through all subjects, and kindly check our YouTube channel for the lecture, and I will be uploading also our lecture in our Facebook page about this video, no? Kindly be updated also in our Facebook page, and don't worry, uh, posting an update in our group chat. But be sure you have complied all activities that were sent, and just inform us if you are being hard up, or you feel difficult, or you're not comfortable, or you cannot access, so that we know how to adjust, and we know how what to do in order for us to deliver our lessons carefully. And lastly, you may send our activities via our email and our messenger. So my details is projected beside the screen. So in this chapter, at the end of the module, you were able to determine the causes of post-harvest losses that will now degrade the quality of the produce. Second, you are to classify the farm produce in accordance to use or its purpose. Third, recognize the importance of storage and shelf life of the farm produce or the harvested crop. And lastly, account the duration of perishability and the durability of the produce. So all of those we will be lecturing in this module. So there's a question: is the produce alive or not? Okay. I will speak in our national language, Filipino. Yung mga na-harvest bang commodity, like fruits, vegetables, or root crops, na-harvest, they were uprooted, they were cut from the mother plant. Are they alive or not? Okay, to simply answer that, yes, they are alive. Kahit na-harvest yan, kahit natanggal yan from the mother plant, still, they are alive, since the breath, okay? The breath, they lose moisture, they can get sick, and they release heat. And eventually, they will die. No? So we will be discussing the physiological process of respiration in the third chapter, the post-harvest physiology. But for now, we will discuss first the losses of a certain harvest or produce. So we have here some principal causes of post-harvest losses that will now cause a poor quality of products. So let's start with the root vegetables. So the root vegetables, in accordance to use or its purpose, so vegetables are intended for viand. So we have here roots, carrots, okay, yambin, jicama, yautya, taro beets, onions, garlic, potato, and sweet potato. So all of those are classified as root vegetables. So they are being used in the as our viand, no? So onions, like the condiments, also the bulbs, those are bulbs, no? So they are under root vegetables. So some observed losses in these commodities are as follows. So mechanical injuries, improper curing, sprouting and rotting, water losses or shriveling, decay and chilling injury. So we'll discuss one by one the losses. Yan. As you can see in the first image, so mechanical losses could be due to an improper handling system of handler. So you can see, ayun, inapaapakan pa, no? So that will degrade the quality due to a mechanical damage that will now cause abrasions or gas to the commodity. Yan. So, improper curing, ibig sabihin ng improper curing is that the wound of the produce or the root crop was not duly healed because of uh, excessive heat. Okay? No? So, curing means healing of wounds in the produce. No? Yung parang i-treat mo yung sugat ng root crops para hindi yon ang papasukan ng sakit. That's the purpose of curing. So curing is for you to develop a layer, a protective layer in order for the microorganisms not to infect the commodity. Kasi ang sugat, yun yung papasukan ng mga microorganisms, pati ang pores or the opening or lenticels present in those root crops. Yan. So we have here the improper practice. As you can see, they are in the second image, they are packing the root crop, the cassava, in the sako or the jute sack. No? So this will enable the outer layer or the skin of the root crops to be abrasive or magasgasan. So that will now cause damage to the root crop. For the third picture, in the third picture, it portrays here that root crops must be dried before storing. Why? No? Okay. And so most farmers and post-harvest practitioners doesn't recommend washing of the commodity before storing. Okay, so what they recommend is to dry the root crops before storing the commodity, as you can see in the third image. And in the fourth image, that is a simple process of curing. No? So we have here curing of yam or obe. The English of yam is obe. Vice versa. The English of obe is yam. So in a canvas tarpaulin, they were to cure those yam in order for the yam to develop a protective layer by using grasses and covered it with a canvas sheet. In order for the heat to be generated and to be trapped, and the root crops will be healed. Okay, how about for leaf or leafy vegetables? So leafy vegetables, this includes lettuce, spinach, horseradish, swamp cabbage, petchay, green onions, Chinese cabbage, jute, chayote tops, sweet potato tops, celery, parsley, etc. The main problem here in the leafy vegetables, they are enriched in moisture or water. So easily, water loss or wilting in these commodities are being considered. No? So loss of green color or yellowing, mechanical injuries, and relative high respiration rates. So respiration rate, ibig sabihin ng respiration is a physiological process occurs in the produce that will utilize its own stored food in order to generate heat and lose moisture. So yung end product ng respiration is moisture and heat that was generated from the stored food in the commodity. Okay? So for more explanation of the losses of leafy vegetables, I have here an example. So first image, number 1, that is wilt. So the leafy vegetables wilted because of moisture content. Why these vegetables wilt? Okay, due to a high moisture content, the high moisture content the higher respiration takes place. So we will be addressing this by proper cooling. So you were to store the leafy vegetables for at least 55 degrees Fahrenheit, or that is approximately 12 degrees Celsius, in a cold storage or refrigerator in order to maintain its turgidity or freshness for a certain period of time. Of course. Second image, that is the yellowing of the produce. Okay, so due to loss of green pigmentation, the green pigmentation represents the chlorophyll in the uh, leaves, no? But due to respiration process, now those chlorophyll are being gone, so it will start to become yellow, and that is a loss. So how you will maintain that? Okay, leafy vegetables, harvested leafy vegetables must not be exposed to heat, sunlight, and mist or moist areas. So what will you do? Okay, at least it must be stored in a cool air temperature, air cold air condition for at least 12 degrees Celsius and 50% relative humidity. Ang ibig sabihin ng relative humidity ay that is the moisture present in the atmosphere. Hindi dapat dry ang condition ng room storage nyo. Hindi dapat moist. So at least 50%. Not dry, not moist. Okay? And in the third image, as you can see, those Brussels sprouts that are being displayed. You know, during transportation, these Brussels sprouts, kapamilya yan ng cabbage, no? If those will be transport, due to vibration, ayun, they will collide with each other, that will now cause damage or abrasions of the commodity. Next, we have here the flower vegetables that includes the broccoli, cauliflower, artichoke, etc. So we were to observe here mechanical injuries, yellowing, and other discolorations. Abscission of florets, or simply meaning ng abscission, the separation of florets due to over maturity and decay. Ayan. So in the picture below, in the first picture, decay following mechanical damage during transportation. The surface of that cauliflower is being decayed because it collides with other commodity. That's why in packing, a divider must be present in order for those high-valued crops like this cauliflower not to be damaged. Yon. In the second image yan, the first cauliflower is the normal color, but the infected one, the damaged one, yun, nag-yellow na siya. And in the third image, we have here the yellowing of the florets of this broccoli due to over maturity. No? It was harvested over matured, and the green color of the florets will now turns to yellow. How about for fruit vegetables? Okay, we have here the fruit vegetables like the cucumbers, squash, eggplants, peppers, lady's finger, pods, or the beans, garden pea, yun yung mga pods, tomatoes, and gourds. So over maturity at harvest is not recommended since it will develop a very tough seeds. Matigas na yung seeds ng mga commodity na yun if they were to be harvested over matured. So what is the recommendation is the commodity must be harvested parthenocarpic or non-seeded. Wala siyang seeds. Okay? Water loss is Also, a factor that will affect the quality of these fruit vegetables, since most fruits are high moisture content. They have high moisture content. And bruising and other mechanical injuries during transportation, chilling injury. Ibig sabihin ng chilling injury is, uh, are observed when these fruits are or fruit vegetables are being exposed into extreme low temperature for less than 4 degrees Celsius. So never store your fruits and fruit vegetables in extreme low temperature. Otherwise, if you were to treat them in extreme low temperature, then chilling injury will occur. So, so we will teach in the succeeding slides what is the recommended temperature per commodity. Ayun. So in this slide, the first image shows a mechanical damage indicate on the stored paper. So we have here a California paper that was being stored for a long time, and you were to observe some injuries occur during storage. So this is due to low temperature. We have here tomatoes that were chilled. Chilled, ibig sabihin ng chilled, they were stored in extreme low temperature. So the ambient temperature in storing these fruit vegetables is at least 12 degrees Celsius. 12 to 15 degrees Celsius. No? But the recommended is 12. Also in cucumber, also in eggplant, no? Why? What causes chilling injury? Okay. Because of oxidative process, the oxidation process. Bakit nagkakaroon ng chilling injury? Well, the heat generated from the commodity was trapped inside the crop or the harvested produce. Hindi makalabas yung heat. Kaya nasisira sa loob because of the environment is very cool. Pero sa loob ng fruit, mainit, kaya nabulok sa loob. No? That is a chilling injury. So temperature control must be well regulated. And in the last picture, in the fourth picture, we have here a pumpkin. No? So please, the good ones, the uninfected ones must be sorted from the good. Please don't try to mix, to store the infected commodity to the other commodity. Otherwise, the good commodities will be infected. Yun. Okay. We have here also the fruits. Same true with the fruit vegetables where, but for additional, we have here the over-ripeness and excessive softening at harvest is not recommended, most especially for climacteric fruits like papaya. No? You are not to harvest this papaya or pawpaw overripe, otherwise it will eventually destroyed and the shelf life is very short. Ayan. So we have here an observation losses during harvest of this citrus. No? So mechanical injury due to pressure or mapitpit will now cause splitting of the commodity, which will result into a non-marketability of the commodity. Okay. Temperature also in climacteric fruits like in banana must be observed well. No? Okay. As you can see in the image, 0 degrees Celsius ay nagkaroon ng chilling injury. 5 degrees Celsius, difficulty to ripen. But you will see that 10 and 15 degrees Celsius, no? At least, okay? But for more than 15 degrees Celsius, well, ethylene concentration is very high, so it ripens easily, and the peel will be infected with anthracnose. Okay? Anthracnose, that is a post-harvest disease. So iitim yung kanyang peel that will now cause unattractive to the consumer. No? So again, yung mga fruits and fruit vegetables, 12 degrees Celsius ang kanyang recommended storage temperature. So the lowest must be that is the optimum. So 12 degrees Celsius is the optimum. The lowest must be 10 and the highest must be 15. More than that or lower, that will now cause chilling injury and softening of the commodity. Third picture, you have there a fruit, a pears, but due to vibration during transport, naikulog-kulog suna, no? It vibrates during transportation. That's why it collides with the other fruits and now cause a mechanical damage with other fruits. Nagasgas. Okay. Same true with the fourth image. We have here strawberry. Strawberry is in non-climacteric fruits, whereas you need to treat them chemically. No? So if you're to coat these vegetables with, if you're to coat these fruits with wax, then at least you were extending the shelf life of the commodity. Okay, how about for root crops? As I mentioned earlier, root crops, this includes yam bean, elephant ear, cassava, or sweet potato, the same as I mentioned in the first slide of fruit vegetables. We have here mechanical injuries, bruising, sprouting. Mag-i-sprout ang isang root crop if it is very moist. No? If your storage room is very moist and it has light, then it will sprout. No? Okay. Weevil infestations, okay. That is bok-bok in our local term. No? That will now cause the root crops into, if weevil will infest the root crops, then it will not be non-marketable anymore. No? So as you can see in the image handled by that person. So first, what will you do to protect and to extend the shelf life of the root crops? So we have here dry. Okay. After harvesting, it's not recommended for you to wash, but to dry the produce for you to create a protective layer. We call that soberin, the technical term. No? Soberin. Okay. You are to create a protective layer by curing and by drying before storing it in your bodega or in your packing house or before selling. No? Ayun. So before displaying it, yan, so at least in the second image, those root crops and those bulbs were cured. So ibig sabihin ng cured, they were dried and wounds and lenticels of those commodities were treated. They were dried. Okay? They were cured. Okay? So may protective layer niya, kaya mas matagal ang kanyang shelf life. No? Kasi kapag walang protective layer ang root crop, then it will be easily attracts microorganisms. And third, the use of proper containers. Like for example, you were to use sack, no, in packing those root crops. Well, those jute sack will now cause mechanical damage to the crops, either magasgas, abrasion because of the package. And how about for cereals like rice and corn? So germination is a problem. Why? If you were to harvest those commodities in a high moisture content, and it will be easily infected by fungus. So there's a restriction in cereals before you could store them. So we have here moisture content for safe storage of these grains like the rice and corn. The moisture content recommended is at least 14%, no? 14% or less. Okay, so this 14% or less after a weeks or few months of storage, then you are to observe discoloration, insect damage, and moisture absorption. But if you are to store in 8 to 12 months, ayun, bababa ang kanyang percent, at least 13% or less moisture content, it will last for 8 to 12 months. Okay, the problem here is the insect damage, that is the weevil infestation or the bukbok. And we have here 12%. 12%, ayun, 12%, or this is the storage of a farmer's seeds, but the seed will lose viability, no? What is viability? It cannot germinate anymore since it has a very or extreme low moisture content, no? So if it's for consumption, at least 14%. If it's for storage, para it will reach 12 months before selling, at least 13% moisture content. But if your seed is intended for planting, then at least it's not 12% moisture content, otherwise it will lose its viability or germinability. And how about if the cereals is 9% or less in terms of moisture content? Ayun. It could last for 9%. And that intention is good only for consumption. Why? Because as we mentioned, lesser than 12% moisture content, the seed is not viable already for planting. But it is intended for consumption. Okay. We have here a rule of thumb that we'll discuss the restriction in consideration of the temperature and moisture content of the seed before storing. So a rule of thumb of a seed is that the life of the seed will be halved for every 1% increase of moisture content and 5% increase in room storage. Okay, so for every decrease of 1% of moisture content in the seed, it will double the seed life. That is applicable only for 4% to 14% moisture content. Okay. Another rule of thumb is for every increase of 5%, 5 degrees Celsius in the storage, it will decrease the storage or the shelf life of the seeds. So what is post-harvest losses? So post-harvest losses can be defined as the degradation in both quality and quality of the food production from harvest to consumption. So quality losses include those that affects the nutrient composition, the acceptability, and the edibility of the given product. Yun. So, like for example, those infected commodities that is not edible anymore. Those those wilted leafy vegetables, those are not edible anymore. That's why it's very important for us to know the different post-harvest losses and on how we will address them in order for us to maintain its freshness from harvest to consumption. So we have here summary of causes of total produce loss during storage in the post-harvest chain. First, we have attack of insect, deterioration, shrinking or shrinkage or wilting, spoilage, humidity, improper handling, and temperature. So attack of insect like the weevil, the molds in the rodents that will uh, cause losses in root crops and in the grains. So we have here possible solution in mitigating those post-harvest losses that we mentioned earlier. So for a post-harvest practitioner, it's very important to control the relative humidity and the temperature for at least 12 degrees Celsius, or that is 55 Fahrenheit, and the relative humidity at least must be controlled for 50%. So how can a post-harvest practitioner do that? Okay, so it must establish, or he or she must establish a cold chain or a cold room in order for the farmer to store leafy vegetables and fruits for that given temperature and relative humidity. Okay, proper transportation system. It is recommended for a post-harvest practitioner to use refrigerated truck than an open truck or closed truck which is not ventilated. Okay. Use of proper containers or package. So it's very recommended that the post-harvest practitioner must have liners, okay, liners or dividers in order to avoid collisions of those fruits and commodities. Okay, sanitation and disinfection of the raw storage is an important consideration for a post-harvest practitioner. So dapat malinis ang floors, okay? It must be free from microorganisms, so dapat na-disinfect yan bago i-store ang mga commodity. And it must be ventilated, okay? There is a vent or air circulation, most especially for non-cold room, okay? Proper produce handling. So like for example, you must use gloves in handling this produce. Otherwise, your hand could be the source of contamination or infection of the commodity. Okay? Or your fingernails, or your rings, yung mga relo nyo, yung mga singsing nyo, dapat natanggal yan, baka yun pa yung sira sa commodity. Okay? And chemical treatment, at least dipping the butt. What is this butt? Okay. The portion where we cut the produce, okay, in leafy vegetables. Yung portion kung saan na-separate or where we cut those leafy vegetables. So at least we will dip it in sulfur to avoid entrance of those microorganisms. Application also of calcium carbide, or ito yung carboro in our local term, as an artificial ripening for uniform ripening of the commodity. Para sabay-sabay mag-ripe ang mga climacteric fruits, it's very much important for us to apply ripening agent like calcium carbide. Okay, removal of infected produce from the good ones is a sorting method for us to maintain the freshness and the quality of the produce in terms of appearance. So dapat hindi hinahalo ang mga diseased commodities or diseased produce in the product or during storage para hindi ma-infect yung iba. And lastly, proper drying of grains to achieve 14% moisture content. So we have a moisture content tester that will determine if the dried rice or dried corn attain at least 14% moisture content before storing. Ayan. So we have here a recommended storage temperature of different commodities, no? Okay, so we have here the post-harvest transportation, which is recommended. Which is the best transport to be used in delivering fresh produce? Ayun. At least a temperature and humidity regulated transport like the refrigerated truck. Dapat yun yung gagamitin natin to transport those commodities. Okay. To maintain its freshness. Okay. Because during transportation, still those produce are really they release heat. That's why it needs an ambient environment in order to regulate the temperature. But our practice, as you can see in the image, we are delivering our commodities with the use of those elf or those truck, which are not built with uh, e-color, no? So ayan, so pagdating sa Maynila, ayan, marami nang nasira because temperature and humidity was not controlled. Reminder that temperature must be at least 12 degrees Celsius or 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, and relative humidity must be 50%. Okay. So we have here classification of crops according to the relative perishability and potential storage life in near optimum temperature and relative humidity. So we have here durable crops. So durable crops are those crops which could withstand for a long shelf life and a long storage life. This includes the cereals, the grains, the nuts, and the seeds are considered as durable crops or durables. So we have here perishable crops. So perishable crops has short shelf life and short storage life, but they are classified into two. So we have here highly perishable crops. Most of them are fruits, vegetables, and cut flowers since they have a high moisture content. That's why they are considered to be highly perishable crops or high perishables. For semi-durable crops, this includes the root crops, the stone fruits like mango, and vegetables, some vegetables that could withstand for at least 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, what is a shelf life? So shelf life is the period of time during which a produce remains to be useful. Intervening period between display for sale and end of marketability and functional purposes of a product or produce. Okay, that is shelf life. Ibig sabihin ng shelf life, ayun, that is the period, okay, or duration kung saan ang isang produkto ay useful. Okay? Pero pag hindi na useful ang isang produkto, then the shelf life already ends. Okay. How about storage life? Storage life is the longest period of time for a produce to be kept or to be stored in a sound marketable condition. Because you cannot store vegetables forever, or you cannot store a commodity for a long period of time. So what's the solution? Most especially for farmers, because they could not store the commodities forever or for a long period of time. Going back to the slides, there is a certain shelf life of those vegetables, like for example leafy vegetables. The storage life of our leafy vegetables like spinach is only 1 week. So anong gagawin ni farmer or ni post-harvest practitioner? They need to dispose immediately their product if they know that they attain already the maximum storage life of the commodity. Kailangang maibenta or kailangang ma-dispose agad. Otherwise, kapag na-reach na yung maximum storage life niya, masisira na ang commodity. Okay. So that's the importance of knowing the shelf life of the storage life of the commodity in order for the farmer to count or to know the duration of their crop para mabenta agad ang kanilang commodity. Because habang tumatagal, the commodity are expiring, it is now prone to losses. So we have here relative perishability and storage life of fresh produce. So the considered very high perishables, it can only withstand for less than 2 weeks. As I mentioned earlier, these are the leafy vegetables, muscat flowers, processed fruits, ripe fruits, ripe fruit vegetables, spinach, pea, mushroom, etc. Less than 2 weeks ang kanilang storage life. So maitatago mo lang sila, mai-store mo sila in a given condition of 10 to 15 degrees Celsius for less than 2 weeks. More than that, then you were to expect that this commodity will be destroyed. Okay, next. Okay, next classification in terms of relative perishability and storage life of the produce, we have here a high relative perishables, which can be stored for at least 2 to 4 weeks. So this includes partially ripe fruits, tomato, avocado, banana, grapes, Chinese cabbage, green beans, etc. Most of them are partially ripe fruits and fruit vegetables. Pwede natin silang i-store in an ambient condition, as I mentioned, for at least 2 to 4 weeks. More than that duration, you will expect that those commodities will be destroyed. Next, we have here the moderate crops in terms of perishability. It can last for 4 to 8 weeks. So this includes immatured root crops, some citrus, and other fruit vegetables. Again, storage of these root crops, it can reach 4 to 8 weeks in an ambient condition of 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Okay, how about for the low perishables? So it can withstand for 8 to 16 weeks. Okay, kaya nang abutin ng 8 to 16 weeks given that condition. No? So this includes apple, pears, lemon, matured root crops, potatoes, dried onions. Most of them are stone fruits, matured root crops, bulbs and onions, and other commodities like squash and pumpkin. Kaya niyang abutin ng 8 to 16 weeks given the proper condition that 50% relative humidity and 12 degrees Celsius optimum temperature, or 10 to 15 degrees range of temperature. And these root crops must be cured before storing. And lastly, we have here the durables. The durable crops, it can withstand for more than 16 weeks or even years. So we have here the tree nuts, the almond, dried fruits, cereals, grains, and seeds. No? So kabilang dito ang rice and corn. No? As long as the rice and corn or the cereals reached a moisture content of 14% or lower before storing. No? Before storing. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter, and we have here the references. You may scan that and you may use that as reference for you to review if our explanation is not enough. Okay, so reminding you again your practicum. No? I'm reminding again your practicum. At least nakatanim sana kayo ngayon. No? I didn't receive any updates from some of your classmates. Ayun. So in your practicum, you need to update me on your land preparation, planting, fertilizer application, water application or irrigation, pest management of any, until harvesting, because packing and packaging, advertising and promotion, we will be discussed that before you will do. But for land preparation until harvesting of your commodity, you need to update me on those activities by sending pictures with caption via email or messenger. So this is how you will document your activity in your practicum in your garden. So please have your picture be taken by any or your brother or sister or uh, any who could take your picture while doing the activity as an evidence that you are the one who's doing your practicum, and label it by stating your name, your section, and the activity you're doing, as you can see in the image. Okay, now we have the second quiz. Okay, the second quiz, in a clean sheet of paper, kindly answer the following questions basing from our discussion. Please write your answers legibly. Handwriting is required, and I recommend you to write it in a quite clean sheet of paper before you were to send it. Please focus picturing or documenting your answers, no? And at least man lang mabasa before you will send. Okay. So first question, in what way does a post-harvest practitioner do in order to maintain the freshness of the produce to avoid post-harvest losses? Kindly cite at least 2 examples. I have cite a lot of examples. You may add. Okay. Next, kindly differentiate perishables from durables. Why do perishables crops easily rotten and destroy than durable crops? Okay, I had mentioned the difference of perishables and durables. Bakit daw mas madaling masira ang perishables kaysa sa durable crops? Okay. Next, can they differentiate shelf life from storage life? And compare storage life of perishables from durables. Ano ba ang mas matagal ang kanyang storage life? Is it the durables or is it the perishables? Kindly compare. Next, why do grains like rice need to attain at least 14% moisture content before storing? Kindly state the rule of thumb applies to storage in terms of moisture content as we discussed. And lastly, why do perishables need to be disposed immediately than durables? Why do we need to study the perishability and durability of the harvested crops? So that's all for the second module. Good luck and God bless.